Welcome, friends. I'm Andy, the storyteller. Today I have another fun adventure to share from Farmer Brown's Dinosaur Farm. So grab your favorite stuffy and find a nice quiet spot. We're about to take a trip to Farmer Brown's Dinosaur Farm. It was a hot summer day on Farmer Brown's Dinosaur Farm. The sun was shining, the dinosaurs were sleeping in the shade, and Rover the dog snuck off and took a cool dip in the pond. Farmer Brown had just finished his second glass of lemonade when the phone rang. On the other end was a very upset man, but it wasn't just any man. It was Mr. Moneyworth. You see, Mr. Moneyworth was the richest man in town, and for a man who had so much money, he always seemed to be in a bad mood. He explained to Farmer Brown that one of his dinosaurs was at his mansion. Farmer Brown was confused because he'd seen all of his dinosaurs that morning. But when Mr. Moneyworth called, you went. So Farmer Brown and Rover the dog hopped in the truck and drove out to the mansion. When Farmer Brown drove past the fancy main gate to the front door, Mr. Moneyworth was there to meet him. He did not look happy. "Farmer Brown," he said, "one of your dinosaurs has taken up residence in my pool. You need to remove it post-haste." Farmer Brown didn't know what post-haste meant exactly, but he thought it meant fast. Both men walked to the very fancy swimming pool. There in the deep end of the pool was a large, green alligator. "Well," said Farmer Brown, "that's your problem right there. That there's an alligator, not a dinosaur." Mr. Moneyworth was shocked. "You mean that beast is not a dinosaur?" "Nope," said Farmer Brown. "Can you remove it?" "I can try," said Farmer Brown, "but it's going to cost you." After Farmer Brown and Mr. Moneyworth came to an agreement, Farmer Brown and Rover got to work. He asked Mr. Moneyworth, executive chef, to bring him a large steak. Once he had the steak, he stuck it on the end of the fishing pole that he kept in his truck. The steak splashed into the water just inches from the gator's nose. Farmer Brown was going to fish the gator out of the pool. The gator looked happy and opened his large jaws to snap it up, but Farmer Brown reeled the steak away, then backed up and dragged the steak out of the pool and onto the grass. The gator followed, wanting to eat the delicious steak. They walked to the front of the house and up to Farmer Brown's truck. The gator followed him right to the bed of the truck. That's when Farmer Brown and Rover jumped down. He let the gator eat the steak because the gator had earned it. Farmer Brown and Rover started the truck and drove away. As Farmer Brown's truck came up the dirt road of the farm, Mrs. Brown was working in the garden. She came up to talk. There was a grumbling from the back of the truck. "John," said Mrs. Brown, "what's in the truck? Did you bring home another animal?" Mrs. Brown peeked into the back of the truck and came face to face with the alligator. "His name is T-Bone. Can we keep him?" Mrs. Brown shook her head and petted the alligator on the nose. She knew that of all of the creatures on the farm, the alligator was the least dangerous. Farmer Brown backed his truck up to the pond, and T-Bone the alligator slid right off and into the water. He would live with Patty and the other large dinosaurs at the pond. He'd be the smallest creature there. The next day, the Browns found themselves floating in Mr. Moneyworth's pool. Mr. Moneyworth agreed to let the Browns use the pool for the afternoon if he removed the alligator. It was a hot summer day at the pool, but Farmer Brown didn't care. The water was great. He closed his eyes and laid on a pool float. It was perfect. That was until Rover jumped in and splashed him right off the float and into the water. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. Here are some dinosaur facts. Alligators, like other crocodilians, are descendants of a group of reptiles that lived during the age of the dinosaurs. While alligators themselves are not direct descendants of any specific dinosaur, they share a common ancestor with them. Essentially, alligators are more closely related to dinosaurs than they are to modern reptiles like lizards and snakes. This was a silly story about a make-believe alligator. Real alligators are not to be petted or played with, so if you see one, leave it alone and go tell a grown-up. We know it's been a while since you've heard a story from the farm, but we've been very busy. Not to worry, because there are more tales from the farm coming very soon. Today's episode is also a read-along video on YouTube. You can read along with me about today's adventure. Subscribe to Farmer Brown's Dinosaur Farm on YouTube so you don't miss a new story. We'd love to know what you think of our show. Follow us on Facebook and let us know. Just search for Farmer Brown's Dinosaur Farm. If you would like to send us a letter, email us at farmerbrownddinos@gmail.com. This show is sponsored by The Secure Dad. Parents can learn new ways to live safer, happier lives at thesecuredad.com.